Greetings, everyone. My name is Bridget Cabrera, she, her, hers, and I'm the Executive Director of Methodist Federation for Social Action. MFSA is an over 100-year-old faith-based policy and organizing network. Our mission is to mobilize, lead, and sustain a justice-seeking United Methodist movement, energizing people to be agents of God's justice, peace, and reconciliation. And we're very excited to be co-hosting this series of webinars with the Order of the Deaconess and Home Missioners and the United Methodist Volunteers in Mission. The Order of Deaconess and Home Missioner is a lay order of the United Methodist Church of individuals who've committed their lives to full-time vocations in ministry of love, justice, and service. Together, they form a covenant community that is rooted in Scripture, informed by history, driven by mission, ecumenical in scope, and global in outreach. Deaconesses and home missioners function through diverse forms of service and follow 4 mandates, which are to alleviate suffering, eradicate causes of injustice, and all that robs life of dignity and worth, facilitate the development of full human potential, share in the building of global community through the Church Universal. And if you'd like to know more information on the Deaconess-Home Missioner relationship, you can send an email to deaconess@uwfaith.org. We acknowledge this land and the many lands that we are all joining this call from, its history and all the beings seen and unseen, known and unknown, as we step into our work on these lands, most of us as uninvited guests. We offer this work in a spirit of reparation, devoting ourselves to justice. As we strive to uplift the legacy of all of these places, we invite you to acknowledge the indigenous land of where you are joining from and type that in the chat. A few announcements concerning our call today. By participating in our webinars, we covenant together to co-create an equitable and brave space where we learn, engage, and grow in relationship together. We are recording this webinar, and that recording will be shared in the coming days. As you have questions, please type them in the chat. You don't have to wait for the Q&A section to do that. You can type them in the chat as they come to you. And closed captioning is available. It is automatically generated, so do expect there's probably going to be spelling errors and such. Today, our moderator for this conversation is Monica Bartley. Monica is a member of the disability community, disability advocate, and researcher. She worked at the Center for Independence of the Disabled in New York, where she contributed to the SIDNY Action Network to educate people with disabilities and assist them in becoming leaders through community advocacy. Her efforts in voting rights advocacy led to a civil rights victory in federal courts for people with disabilities in New York City. She serves as a deaconess in the New York Annual Conference and attends Bethany United Methodist Church in Brooklyn, where she's the president of the local unit of United Women in Faith. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Bridget. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second webinar in our series. It's so good to see everyone. Today, we have our speaker, Pablo Delgado, who is originally from Costa Rica. He is the director of a nonprofit organization called Open Arms Hispanic Ministry that serves Latino immigrants in Northeast Ohio. He has an MBA and clergy credentials. He lives with his wife and 2 Buckeye babies in Orville, Ohio. He has had the opportunity to serve in different countries in Latin America as a translator and a missionary, supporting different Christian ministries in cities, indigenous tribes, and towns. So I would like to welcome Pablo. He may have to leave us shortly, but I think I'm frozen.
We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, good. Okay, he may have to leave us shortly, and he'll hand over to his assistant, Jennifer, who he will introduce. Welcome, Pablo.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for the invitation. I'll just mention it briefly. Jennifer Hicks, she's from Guatemala, born and raised, and she's bilingual Spanish and English, and so she's our assistant, a great asset for our organization. I apologize in advance. I had prepared and I had the time for this presentation, but due to a last minute situation, I'm going to have to leave this call a little bit earlier. So I will pass it to Jennifer Hicks. She's aware of the situation and things that are happening with our organization. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pablo. So tell us what you're doing in the field and what is Open Arms?
Yeah. So Open Arms started about 25 years ago. It started with a missionary couple. They came back from Mexico. The lady was a nurse. And so she and her husband, she passed away, but they started scheduling appointments and taking people to doctors and dentists about 25 years ago. Uh, Due to like the society were pushing them aside, the Hispanic immigrants that were coming for work, and they couldn't even, when they would get hurt in their jobs, they couldn't go themselves to a clinic, they couldn't speak, they couldn't schedule. So they started assisting with us. Well, 25 years later, we're a nonprofit Christian organization. Our mission is to welcome, partner, and accompany Latino immigrants. We things that we do in our day to day will help families with transportation and interpretation. We'll take them to, like I said, doctors, dentists. We schedule or we help them register their kids, enroll their kids in the school when they're new to the area. We have a compassion fund that allows us to buy things like formula and diapers. We buy coats in the winter for kids, and then we have a legal fund that allows us to pay some of their legal fees when they're trying to get when they have to pay an immigration lawyer, when they have to pay fees to the court. Um, so that's how just a brief description of how we are assisting the Hispanic community. I guess the last thing I would mention is that we meet with the kids, with immigrant kids, once a week. We'll teach them English. We pair this child with a volunteer who will go to a public library. They meet together for about 2 hours every week, and they will go over homework, English language, and in a way, these people become mentors to these kids and help them uh, be part of America, be part of, without losing their roots, their origins. They help them get involved in the community. So that's just a brief description of what the organization is doing here in Northeast Ohio.
Thank you, Pablo. Just a reminder, if you have questions, please write them in the chat and we'll take the questions at the end of the presentation. Again, Pablo, what is the current situation for migrants?
So I see that there are people from many other states, and obviously I would think there are things that are affecting in a federal level the whole nation, but there are things that are also specific. Jennifer and I, we can talk for our specific situation in Northeast Ohio. So one of the things that we're seeing more and more is family separation, which is, to me, it's just heartbreaking. When family gets separated when they're detained and they're in the process of deportation because they have no other resources or alternatives. It is our understanding from our lawyers that we work with. I think you guys might have had or will have Mr. Jeff Stewart. We work very closely with them with the Immigrant Project. And so what they've explained to us is that, mothers, like the ladies, will go to one facility, fathers, the male, will go to another facility, and then kids in a separate facility. It's one of the most traumatic. There's a lot of trauma in that. So that's one of the things that's happening. The way we're things that we're doing for that community right now is we're helping them obtain passports for kids that are born in the U.S. It's a complicated. It may not be that complicated if you speak English and you've done it before, but we help families to obtain their passports for kids that are born in the U.S. and we help them with their passports from their respective countries in case they have to do a sudden departure. We also have the opportunity to meet with the superintendent in different schools in our area to see what their policy is in case that the immigration authorities would show up. It's not like they can just come to a school and ask for randomly, oh, you look white, oh, you don't look like you could be from here, can I see? It's not like that. They have a policy, they have a procedure, and it was very reassuring. It gave us a lot of peace of mind, and we transferred that information to the parents. So just a couple of examples of things that are happening around here. I know that you guys might be even more aware than we are, but some states like Missouri, I believe they're offering rewards about $1,000 for turning in undocumented immigrants. I think, and I apologize. I don't have these are things that I've read and seen. As it's important to verify your sources, but these are things that I've read on a couple of different media news.
Thank you. And just a reminder, write your questions in the chat. So, Pablo, what can we do to help immigrants?
Yeah, that's a great question. What can we do? I think there are things that are beyond our control. There are things that are beyond what we can do. There's things that are at a federal level. I'm a person of faith, like many of you. I believe God is in control and He's almighty above any other rule, policy, or government. He allows things for a certain reason. I think a lot of prayer for these families is vital. I think accompanying, walking with them in the legal process when they're trying to have an appointment, trying to obtain a status in the country. It's a great way to support. If you have the opportunity to be bilingual, if you have the chance to transport and assist with interpretation, uh, that's another opportunity right there. Uh, and we never mean to turn anything political. This is just facts that are affecting the community that we serve. But writing letters to representatives and senators, asking them to, advocating for the community in the past or even now, I believe that when the church stays quiet, when we don't speak, we allow other people to talk on our behalf. We allow media and politicians, and sometimes they don't describe immigrants in the most loving way. Jennifer, do you have anything to add to that? What can we do as a community, as a loving community, for the immigrants right now? Well, I'll just pass that to you as I'm asking you more of this question.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer. I think that prayer is a greatly underutilized tool that we have at our disposal. And I definitely encourage anybody to support the people in your area that are Hispanics. If you know of anybody that has like a food truck or something like that, I would encourage you to go and support them. Um, Also, just like everyday kindness is going to go a long way. If you see somebody who is Hispanic, maybe they're struggling, maybe they can't communicate with a store clerk or something like that, just coming alongside and trying to help however you want is going to make a great big impact as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. What should we not do? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Who's your question directed to? To Pablo or?
Well, to Pablo or yourself, what should we not do?
I can take this one. Pablo just notified me that he is going to be busy now. Some things that you shouldn't do. This might seem like an answer that that is very biased in a sense, because I do favor the immigrant community, but a tendency that I see in Americans is that if there is a blame to be passed around and a Hispanic is part of the situation, they tend to receive the blame. And oftentimes, the reason is because there is a giant divide in the culture as well, between the Hispanics and the Americans. And there's a lot of things that happen that are simply a cultural misunderstanding that and end up with somebody or some being offended. So if you're ever in a situation where you're interacting with Hispanics, be cognizant of the fact that the culture that they come from is vastly different from the culture that we experience in the United States on a daily basis. And it is my opinion that people who come to this country are not trying to insult, and they're not trying to offend anyone. So if in the interaction that you have, they say something that might be offensive to you, remember that it is not their intention to come and create chaos. They are seeking stability and peace when they come to this country.
Thank you, Jennifer. So are there any questions? I will just go back to the chat. This is a scale of deportations. How many are there per day? And what seems to be the target percent of Hispanic immigrants? Can you answer that, Jennifer?
I cannot give you a specific number of deportations. I do know that the number of deportations has skyrocketed, and that ICE does have a quota of deportations for each of their officers per month. And so they are trying to reach that quota. The other thing that I know is that to begin with, they are looking for people who have some sort of criminal record. So there's like a hierarchy of people that are going to be sought first. The first are going to be people who are adults and that have a criminal record. So they are looking for people who have already broken the law apart from entering the country illegally. And then they're going to start looking for people who have not started any kind of my immigration proceedings. And then I believe that the next step would be to start looking through the people who have started their immigration proceedings. Having started asylum proceedings or any kind of proceedings is going to give them at least a time that they will be able to be here until they have a hearing and a final decision has been made. I hope that answers the question. If not, I'm happy to clarify.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Let's see, are there any more questions? Where can we receive training for what to ask as officers should they show up?
Okay. There are various websites that will have information on what to do. What we have done as Open Arms Ministries is that we have gathered all of our immigrant people together along with an immigration lawyer to answer some of their questions. Just like anybody else in the country, entry into someone's private home is still illegal unless you have a court order, unless you decide to invite the people in. So what we have been instructing people as of now is to have a little piece, a little card that we hand out. On one side, the card is in Spanish, explaining for the person what they ought to do, including not opening the door for any officers that come, and showing them what a court order looks like versus just an ICE order. Because even if it is an order from ICE, that is not a legally binding document that they need to abide by. Only a court order from a judge is what they would need to be able to enter homes. As for people who are partnering with immigrants, usually that interaction would look like giving somebody a ride. So if you, for example, are the driver of the car and there is an immigrant person in the car with you and you are stopped, the police officer does not have any jurisdiction asking any of the passengers in your car any questions. So as the person who is the owner of the car, you would be the only liable person in the vehicle for whatever violation you did that you were stopped for. I believe that Pablo has some websites that he sends people to on a pretty regular basis so that they can understand more of what their constitutional rights are in this country as immigrants.
Mhm. Thank you. I just want to follow up on what you said earlier about people offering assistance with food trucks. Wouldn't immigrants be at risk if a large number of them should visit these food trucks?
Yes. So we do have some situations here in Ohio, especially during the summer, where people try to create a community. And right now, that is definitely, those numbers are going down of people who are willing to meet in a community. As far as food trucks go, if you do see somebody that has an actual full-fledged food truck, that probably means that their immigration proceedings are going pretty well and that they do not have any risk of being deported. However, you might also find people who are like individually selling their food from their home or something like that, which it's different in that sense. A lot of the people in this area that cook and sell their food do so to like a certain number of people that they already have their contact information. So, for example, if they cook a meal and they have, 15 portions for the meal, then they reach out to this net of people that they already have, and they will come and pick up the food and pay for it, right?
Okay, thank you. How can people in Ohio reach your programs?
You can look us up online. Well, our website is going to be open-arms.us, or you can email at info@open-arms.us for any information from us. If you Google us, you'll also find our telephone number, which would be 330-765-9955. If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
Okay, we'll put those in the chat later so people can refer to them. How has accompanying and partnering changed during the last 2 months?
Like Pablo said, a lot of what we have been helping with recently is getting families to a point where they might make the decision of returning to their country or repatriatizing back to their countries on their own accord under their own circumstances. And so we have come alongside those families to make sure they have the proper documentation to be able to take their small children out of the country. And we also have been partnering with them, trying to get them into legal aid so that they can start proceedings on asylum paperwork so that they can fend off that deportation.
Okay, thank you. Are you in cooperation with HOLA, Ohio?
I don't believe that we are, but it certainly looks like something we should be someone we should be partnering with.
Yeah, okay. Um, I see a question here. I don't know if you can answer, but I am putting it to you. Um, Someone mentioned that they haven't heard much about non-Spanish speaking immigrants like Chinese, Poles, and Haitians. Are they being deported, or are the media and immigrants' rights groups not giving them their fair share of attention?
Um, I I don't know the exact answer to this question, but an educated guess would tell me that anybody coming into the country illegally has the same risk as anybody else, regardless of their race. Um, there are certain countries that seem to have an easier time getting asylum. Open Arms, we also have a pilot program that focuses on the Congolese population in Akron, and most of the Congolese population in Akron does have asylum, which means that they have work permits and they have social security numbers, and both of those things come with a better guarantee of being able to live a more normal life, because without a social security number, there's very little that we can do to help, um, like getting them signed up for social programs like WIC or food stamps or stuff like that. If they don't have a social security number, we can't help them with that. Not having a social security number also does not let them get a driver's license, which can be really tricky. They can also not get any health insurance. As far as I understand, I do know that there are people that do have insurance. I don't know how that works, but when I have tried to help people get insurance, that has been our hiccup, is that they don't have a social security number.
Are immigrants more cautious, for example, about taking pictures?
Yes. We have we have had several instances where we want to get pictures of children, for example, so that we can use them for advertising purposes, and people are not comfortable with that. In fact, in our monthly bi-monthly newsletters that we do, we tend to have an interview, and we change the picture and the name of the person that we're interviewing, just to make sure that nobody can harm them or get to them through us.
Thank you. Are you more cautious when working with schools? Are the children in school?
They're towards the beginning, right when the change of administration happened, a lot of people weren't sending their children to schools. Which is why Open Arms has partnered with the schools in the area, gathering all of the parents and the children to kind of ease their mind, because the schools do have a protocol for allowing ICE to come into schools. And for the most part, they would not let them unless they have a court order as well. So the schools have partnered with us so that we can give that peace of mind to parents, that they can continue to send their children to school without fear of them being deported out from under them.
Okay. I have one more question, thank you. Have any of the people you work with been affected by the parole program being ended by executive order since they were legal until this happened?
Yes, I do believe we have several families who, through the parole program, had work permits and had legal status in the country, and now they do not. In fact, I believe that one of the families is we will be helping them to relocate back to their country before a catastrophe would happen.
Okay, thank you. And are there many people who want to relocate to their countries? Have you been getting?
I would say that a vast majority of the immigrants do not come to this country with the intention to stay permanently. They come to this country long enough to be able to make enough money to live comfortably for the rest of their life back at home. Saying that, their intention might be not to stay, but oftentimes they do end up staying 10, 12, 15 years. But even then, their intention is still to return to their country. So there are definitely some who have less, how would I say it, strings attached here, like they haven't created lasting relationships here, that have made the decision to just go ahead and go back now. There are other people that came with the intention of returning to their own countries later, but then found a spouse, had children, and now have an established life here. Those people are probably going to be much less likely to want to leave the country.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Anyone? Did I miss any question? If not, I know, Jennifer, we have lots of questions.
Yeah.
But time constraints certainly won't allow us to ask you all the questions we want to ask. Have any of the people that you work with been affected by the parole program being ended by executive order? Did I ask you, right?
Yes, we do. Like I said, we do have a family that had the United States through the parole program, and they have now made the decision to return to their country on their own accord, so that they know that they can stay together and avoid the trauma of having to be separated, because they do have small children.
I see a question here. Aren't some people being sent back to unsafe situations? Because some people left home because they were threatened in some way and they tried to escape by coming here. So what about those people?
Unfortunately, I would say that many of the people that come into this country haven't even heard of the asylum, of getting asylum, and they haven't even started any process of immigration. Those people are, in fact, in danger of returning to dangerous situations. Possibly just simply for the fact that they didn't know better than to start their immigration process.
Are you aware of anyone from your community who has been sent to El Salvador, to the prison there?
I am not aware of anybody from our community that has been sent to El Salvador.
Yeah.
Not the prison anyway. I do know that we do serve a certain amount of Salvadorans. So, but to my knowledge, we have not encountered that.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. I am going to hand over to Bridget for her closing comments. Thank you very much. You've really given us quite a lot of information here today.
No
We're sorry Pablo had
problem.
to leave early, but thank you very much, Jennifer. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and thanks again to our speakers. Our next webinar and final webinar in this specific migration webinar series will be next week on Wednesday, same time. We'll be hearing from Deaconess Cindy Johnson. I hope that you all will be able to join us. And again, just another reminder that this webinar, as well as all the webinars in this series, are being recorded. And so if you know folks that might benefit from receiving this webinar, please feel free to share this. They'll be up on our YouTube channel and on our website. So thank you again for joining us, and I hope that we will see you next week.